Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And right now we are on our third panel discussion, which is going to be on the theme winning customers in a world of bots, AI, and automation. Well, we hope you had a great round of networking. And now we move on to another great and an insightful session. Our panelists for this session, first up, is going to be Janesh Jain, General Manager at Digital Mahindra Group. Janesh has over 15 years of management consulting experience in designing and implementing digital and other transformation programs for several large global companies. We also have Mr. NBS Murthy, Head Marketing, Digital and Corporate Communications, Tata Asset Management Limited, Tata Mutual Fund. Well, Mr. Murthy brings to the table 21 years of experience, having worked across leading advertising agencies, digital marketing companies, bank, broking, general insurance, and mutual funds. He's somebody who has looked at building in growth partnerships, particularly with technology companies and startup. We also have Mr. Rahul Chopra, Chief Digital Officer, Clicks Capital Services Private Limited. Rahul, a digital evangelist with 18 plus years of rich experience in leading strategic growth and digital transformation agenda, defining experience for customers, partners, and employees, leading e commerce and digital marketing, BI and analytics, AI, and machine learning. We also going to have Mr. Prashant Kumar, Director, India Delivery Center, Consumer Enterprise, Digital Volvo Cars. Prashant is a performance driven IT industry professional with 19 plus years of cross functional experience with skills in adopting a pragmatic approach in improvising on solutions and resolving complex business issues. And we also have Mr. Gaurav Shatak, the Vice President and Head Digital Marketing Sharekhan Limited, BNP Paribas. While Gaurav, being an experienced marketing and a digital transformation professional with over 14 years of experience in diverse sectors such as retail, e commerce, cement, hospitality, and BFSI. He's somebody who's managed and successfully delivered in diverse roles such as building digital teams from zero to one, channel sales, setting up commerce, websites, etc. Also, ladies and gentlemen, this entire panel discussion is going to be moderated by Mr. Sudeep Mazumdar, the Global Chief Digital and Information Officer, Piramal Glass Limited. Well, Sudeep, a digital IT and a transformational leader with the technology acumen, business insights, critical and the strategic thinking. Well, we couldn't have done any better on this topic than our eminent panelists present here today. And also to all the ones who are viewing us live, we request you to please post your questions, if any, in the Q&A section. Thank you once again for joining us. And with this, I'd now like to pass the live baton to our moderator, Sudeep, for taking it forward with his able panel. Over to you, Mr. Mazumdar.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Bhavna. Thank you for my co-panelists. And I think I'm very, very pleased to come here in the afternoon, Friday, after a heavy morning schedule. So let me just take it forward without, spending much time, because we've got a heavy hitting panelists who have been, doing their best in the industry, been there, done that people. So we will go into that directly, the questions. But before I go into the question, just 1 minute, I'll just take, on my own personal interest, the digital, the marketing, the sales, the communication. I think, though I'm from the digital and IT and I have been, doing it for the last 25, 26 years and more than that, I think that, we are having a very, very interesting time at this point. Because the way the last 5 years, 4 to 5 years, the technologies moved exponentially, and as sometimes McKinsey calls it an exponential technologies. And I'm pretty enamored by these technologies and how it is driving every aspects of the organizations and the government and the whole community. But today, possibly we'll be looking into more the marketing, communication, sales in this particular area, the product innovation, etc. So, so first question to be, I'll put it to Jinesh, who is from the Mahindra Group, quite diversified, though he has quite a bit of background in the consulting area as well. So since he's from consulting, so the question possibly is very appropriate for him. He's been doing strategies for other companies, possibly other industries as well. So 2010 and 2021 today, what is the difference in CX strategy, customer experience strategy? And what is the difference between the non-digital era, so-called IT era, but non-digital era, and the digital era? What's the difference? Jinesh.
Thanks, Udit. Interesting perspective. And as you said, life has changed completely in last few years. So 2010, non-digital era almost sounds like a stone age to digital professionals like us. We've not seen what was life in the stone age, but non-digital sounds like a stone age to us. So the pace of technological change has swept all the businesses, societies, our lives everywhere, right? Now let's first take the CX from a strategy point of view. 10 years back was the time when we were transitioning from customer satisfaction to customer experience, right? From CSAT to CX. And CX used to be one of the top priorities, but now, as of today, we can safely say that it is the only priority. Everything else should fall in place. Customer experience is the primary focus. Organizations are gearing up to provide the best customer experience to customers. Their focus is completely on end-to-end touch points. Their products, services, all the teams, assets, tools, everything that they enable should fall in place basis their customer touch points. That's the primary focus. Now, CX has also moved from CEO's agenda to boardroom with chief customer officer, chief customer experience officer, these kind of titles coming up. So strategically has gained a lot of importance. Coming to the second element, which is digital. Now, when we talk about CX, when we talk about product launch, when we talk about customer first, the strategy is indeed digital first, and I would rather say mobile first. That's the big monumental shift we have had in last 10 years, where 10 years back, the focus was on digitizing the customer journey. Technology is here. Let's make best use of technology. Now the focus is on creating new digital customer journeys basis customer needs. So this is a complete shift from an inside out to an outside in perspective as far as the CX strategy is concerned. And because of this, earlier when technology was creating value, now algorithms are creating value for customers. Now the impact in terms of the customer experience is twofold. One is the personalization aspect, right? You have ability to dissect and digest a lot of customer data. You can really understand where the customers are coming from, their context, what would they like to do. For example, if customers are coming on our car portal, some of them would like to explore the products. Some of them would like to say do financing first. Some would like to say maybe exchange their old car first. Or maybe some would like to configure the product first and look at what are the options. So the personalization in the customer journey has become very, very important. Additionally, the increasing proportion of the journey is moving online. 10 years back, it was difficult to even think of selling cars online. But now, lot many activities are happening online, not just the booking of vehicle, but also the complete transaction of vehicles. End-to-end payment is working. That is happening online. So overall, a very interesting times. 10 years is a complete monumental shift, I would say. From a strategy point of view, customer experience is the only element which most people are talking about, and rest everything has become secondary. That's the primary focus. So interesting times ahead, Sudeep. Back to you.
Thanks very much, Jinesh. Personalization, CEO's agenda to the boardroom agenda, and digital first. So there are the three key elements I've just picked up from your conversation. Let me just go to MVS Murthy, who is part of the Tata Mutual Fund. And I'm sure there are B2B aspects or the B2C aspect both, right? So MVS, my question to you will be, given the lights that Jinesh has thrown in, and from your perspective, your work, and what will be the customer acquisition, customer support, if you just take these two, what will be the heavier element, and what's your strategic perspective on that?
So hi Sudeep, it's good to be amongst all of you, and I realized after Bhavna spoke that we have a very interesting stack of people who come from various industries and have done so much of in-depth work. Coming to your question, I think it's a matter of evolution of the medium, in this case the technology itself. For example, if you go back to the 80s, most of us used to travel by train, and air travel was very limited. Now aviation itself evolved, connectivity improved, and therefore the first thing we do when we want to go out on a holiday is go and check the airfares, or time ourselves based on how the algorithms work. So similarly, when you look at the digital as a medium, digital support has been an aspect which has been there in the industry for a while. It's almost about 20-25 years that we have been using digital as a support medium, and the most basic digital support medium being perhaps emails, customer service emails, which were there. But now, with the evolution of the medium, marketeers are challenging the passive digital mediums to become more active, and they are trying to push the frontiers by trying to say, can this medium also help me go out and generate sales? And this is not just sales through getting leads on the website and then getting a call center to call you. So elements like the bot, the use of voice, the use of vernacular and vernacular voice also are adding to the capability build up. Now you just imagine people who can't type, people who don't know English are all outside the ecosystem perhaps of a lot of the work that we go out and do. But if technologies start getting leveraged by marketers like us, where you are able to speak in your mother tongue, and if there is a platform on the other side which also responds to you in your mother tongue, how many more people will be bring in to the mainstream of a particular business? So from where I stand today, I would want to push customer acquisition models to do a bit of heavy lifting, to pick up a phrase that you just used, through remote, always on mediums. And strategically, it is very important because one, obviously costs are lower. I'm able to expand my reach. It's an always open kind of a platform. And most critically, it helps an organization build both capacity and capability to service consumers around the clock.
Thank you, MVS. That was a very interesting perspective again. So from the personalization to digital first to CEO's boardroom, you are talking about the mass marketing. You are talking about evolution of media to reach out to the mass and deliver customer experience. A very interesting point I picked up from your conversation is text to voice evolution, right? From the text through the voice. But now my next question actually to Gaurav will be voice to visualization, right? How the VR, MR, XR changing today and at a very fast pace over the last 2-3 years. In fact, I personally I was in L&T just before that, and we have been doing quite a lot. And right now in the Premier Gloss, I'm trying to do quite a lot in this area. But clearly, I see that text, voice, and the visuals, all three are coming in the strategy. So while the technology is getting evolved, so what is the excitement in your industry or in general in the industry that you see in the CX and the visualization? Gaurav.
So good afternoon, everyone, and Sudeep, thanks for the question. Just to add to what MVS also said, and now you have built up on from text to voice to the visual, we need to understand that human brains, we understand videos, colors much faster. Our brain processes colors much faster than anything else, right? For example, if I want to read a text or a book, or if I watch a video probably about the book or a documentary about the book, maybe I will grasp that book, which may take me a day's time to read. Maybe in one video I can understand the thing much faster. So human brain processes visual data which comes through their eyes, through colors and all five senses much faster. So having that is the reality of humans, how they understand the environment around them. So these visual technologies are helping not only the businesses but also the customers to have very seamless experience. Maybe right now, if you really look at the actual business use case are developing out of it, a lot of exciting work is happening from a customer engagement, from a marketing standpoint. If as a marketer I want to get customer involved into some product or a story which I want to reach out to them, if I use heavily XR, VR technologies, customers get very excited about it. However, the real world usage is also increasing very fast. If I give some example from the BFSI sector only, maybe let's say if I'm a bank and if I want to give a customers how to reach the nearest branch, maybe my app can give a very good augmented reality experience and people can reach out to my branch very fast. So these things are developing. If I talk about the industry from which I'm coming, maybe the right now maybe there are softwares and a trading station. Maybe a virtual trading station is something which probably will give not an extra edge to the brand which will come, which will also give a very seamless and a very good experience to the customer. So these are the things which are happening right now, and I think the use of visual technologies is going to increase. as the customers are also evolving, as technology is also evolving, and as the lines between virtual and the real world are changing very, very fast. So as soon as the virtual and the real world becomes more seamless, I think these technologies are going to be very much part of our customer journey as well as our life.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Thanks, Gaurav. It's an interesting perspective once again that, the visual technologies are taking the center stage as we go along. In fact, a couple of years ago, or 1.5, 2 years ago, a couple of years ago, we did a research and we looked at by 2018, I think the spend on XR technology, reality technologies, around 20 billion, and it was predicted that by 2025 it will be 200 billion. So, in 7 years span, they're talking about 10 times the technology spend will be. At that time, COVID was not there. And now the COVID is there. The virtuality is the king. Everybody's talking online. Everybody's talking about visualization online, even touchy-feely stuff also online, right? 2027, it was estimated by one of the analyst firm again that by 2027, we will be able to smell over the internet. Right. So I haven't touched the nose part. I have touched only the eyes and the ears and the other things. But interesting time again. So going into that, taking a cue from the researches that I mentioned and that you talked about, Gaurav, my next question to Rahul, who is a customer support, customer experience, again, is the king of that place, as I understand. So Rahul, self-service, digital, is it a dream still today or a reality? If you want to make it a reality with the virtual reality, what's the strategy tomorrow? What's your strategic perspective? Sorry about that. Yeah, Rahul.
I would say it's no more a dream. And I believe last 10 months, whosoever was dreaming is into a reality now, being pushed to be into realities. So, we are out of the world of dreaming right now. We are into too much of execution, and thanks to all innovative digital product that we have around us, it is just about applying those digital product rightly into your sales and service aspect, and then you are there, right? So stuff like your bots, your AI innovation are revolutionizing the customer interaction space. So we are also, as a consumer, experiencing a lot around that point of that area, right? Nowadays, customer demands, or people like you and us, we demand immediate response from businesses. And since chatbot doesn't sleep, so they are available 24/7, hence the beauty of having the self-service 24/7 is a reality, right? And it is there on your tips. So bots have an advantage of being transient compared to the apps. So you don't have to download anything. You're not supposed to sign up, right? So those beauties are anyways on touch of your finger, right? So we are living now in an era of bot and button, I would say, right? So everything is on a click of a button. And of course, voice is also coming up really well. And I'm sure within a span of few months, you will start seeing that it will take over a hell lot of customer service space and customer touch points. To be very frank with you, Plix is a digital first company. We are seeing tremendous success on the voice side as well. So our collections, you will surprised to know that almost 70% of collection is done by our bot, right? So that's how it is. And if anybody going through all those important pages from BCG and McKinsey, companies are started saving. They are showing a cost save of almost 29% on customer service size only by deploying these bots, right? So it's no more a projection. It's a reality that yes, there are papers which says that you are saving that much within 6 months time of your implementation. So that's the beauty of it. It's a reality, and let's live in that reality and maximize the satisfaction for our customer by bringing those digital product in your sales and services and product proposition. That's would be my bit.
Thanks very much. Another interesting perspective, which is basically, you said bots and the buttons are actually winning over, right? Your 70% of your collection is happening by the bot or through the bot. Another interesting stuff, because an IT and digital personnel and a core in it, and we sometimes feel that overburdened by some controversies, like we saw that recently with the WhatsApp, the privacy, the security. Often we don't understand what is the difference between the security and privacy, right? But I'll not go into that direction at this point in time. It's maybe some other day. But the next question to Prashant. You're again. We saw Jinesh from Mahindra's, which is I would say, they've got automotive division as well. But you're from Volvo, right? Which is one of the powerhouses of the world. And I love Volvo, by the way. When I used to be in Europe, and I used to drive one. Automotive industry has seen possibly many changes. We saw changes before 1980s. We saw changes post 1980s when the Toyotas of the world came in. And today we are seeing another spate of change. Without taking any competition's name, what's the change in the automotive industry and how are you coping with? What's your strategic perspectives on the automotive as a digital object?
Sure. Thanks, Sudeep. So I strongly believe the sharing the knowledge is the best way to learn and grow. So on that context, I'm very happy to be part of this session with all the capable leaders here. So I have around 130 slides to share on this topic. Just kidding, just to make sure that to get all your attention. So proud to be part of Volvo Cars. We are world's one of safest and best engineered cars. So as you mentioned, in last 10 years, there are many changes in the industry, and technology is playing a major role. So again, you said don't take the name of the competition, but everybody knows one of the player who is taken over the industry in a big way in last 10 years. So what they have done different. So the first thing comes to my mind is innovation in thinking, because all the automobile companies were thinking in a very traditional way of operating, where a car is just part of, like a commute. But this company started thinking about how it can develop an ecosystem around it, right? And how we can be different. And the second thing is mostly about how we use software. If we take, without getting into details, if you take the car industry, so there are different suppliers develop different parts and different controllers, and then the manufacturer will integrate it. In that context, it's very difficult to upgrade anything or change anything. But this company has taken more than a car company. They started thinking like a software company, where they have complete control of what they develop and what they're putting in a car. So it makes it very easy to, upgrade the software, upgrade the feature, and all those kind of things. And as some of our friends mentioned, the customer experience. So this company made sure that customer gets the best experience. They can order new features through mobile, and they can get that seamlessly, as because every car has its own centralized processing unit or its own control. It's very easy to manage. And also, when we talk about the car as an ecosystem, when we are going into more electric cars, it's very important to ensure that we have the right charging station ecosystems, and it's also available at the right place. If you keep charging station with dealers, there's no point. The charging station should be available where people are, going around, or where people usually go, like downtowns in the US and these kind of places. And the last but not the least, we cannot forget that these companies have a global responsibility of being environment friendly and not spoiling our mother earth as much as possible, and don't contribute to the pollution as much as possible. So sustainability is a big thing. So this one of our competitor who we are talking about today, so they made sure that they came up with best in class the chargers which can be reused, and we can change the batteries. So there are many innovation they did on this. So overall, strategically, if you look into it, the first thing comes to my mind, the future, all the companies are going to be more digital technology driven companies, and which can be used in R&D, and which will be used in manufacturing, and which will be used in customer experience and service. So these are some of the thoughts coming to my mind when you ask me this question.
Thanks, Prashant. I mean, that's always fascinating. Starting from my Reed, that machine that shook the world. The 1980s, which is based on Toyota. So probably every business school kid has read it. And from there, if we start another book, it will be possibly about your competition. But I'll have to take the name of your competition, because I'm a neutral guy here. Okay, that's Tesla, right?
Please go ahead.
That's Tesla.
Yeah.
Now, my experience with Tesla, I mean, just since you are talking about, it's a digital bundle. It's a product, right? So from the strategic perspective, if I look at all the things that we talked about, ultimately the product, the services, everything is getting bundled through digital. Now, Tesla was one of the finest examples I saw on the US road. Actually, I was driving my friend's Tesla from New Jersey to Baltimore. And there was some problem. We didn't know there was a problem, right? There was a call actually from the Tesla's central services. They said there's some problem somewhere. It came up on the board, and then they said that we'll apply the patch, so you just continue. And by the time actually we reached Baltimore, the patch was applied. We didn't know even, right? It was a software.
So this is the beauty of having the complete control with you. Now just imagine that if it is a traditional company where each component software is controlled by different players,
yeah,
it is not easy to do an upgrade that easily.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much. Those perspectives really help. So first track, if you look at it, is more the strategic perspectives from various industries and the companies also possibly. And I'm sure that you have kind of combined your own personal experience as well. Now, let me go to the second track of this discussion, which is basically more the execution challenges. So while we pursue our dream, our strategy, we take actions, that there are a lot of challenges on the ground. So like, Rahul talked about bot. I know personally how difficult to get the bot adopted by the people. Even if you use any small technology some of the times, because of it's quite people driven, it's quite cultural, cultural barriers are there, communication barriers are there. So we'll spend some time, the next 10-15 minutes, on execution challenges. I'll start with the technology and skills challenges, which is basically the whole market is facing. If you look at last year, I took around 6 months to recruit 10 data scientists. Yeah, so that's the kind of challenge that we have, and bizarre things that I came across, because the post-COVID world, there are some different kinds of challenges that we are facing, enabling people digitally to perform their duties. So putting things from my perspective, or just get your perspectives in. So first question will be to Rahul. Yeah. What are the challenges that you faced? Deployment challenges. I'm sure that you were not successful on the day one. Yeah. So what are the challenges and how did you overcome?
Yeah. So see, I tell you, this whole last 10, 11 months appeared as a blessing to leaders like us. We have to be honest there, right? Sudeep, you are right. I mean, if I take the situation back from those 10 months that we experienced, then yes, there was a challenge. But now the consumer behavior is like that. They don't want to have a meeting with you. They don't want to have a call with you. They want that everything on a button, that easily you just give me your service there itself. I don't want to even see you. I don't want to know you, right? So for example, I mean, things like, and while execution challenges were there initially, if I take other experiences, but if I only take my 10 months experience, I would say everything that we are doing, that is giving a massive adoption rate to us. And that's purely because you and I have changed a bit in our life, right? So we become more hygiene in our every aspect of life, right? So that's the stuff that is happening really well for us, and hence the digital first solutions has to be there. So that equation have changed totally. So I don't see the people will face challenge, and I would say just go ahead. So for example, a leader like us have to position ourselves to say, for example, if I have to just take customer service as an example, why the whole customer service can't be a bot, right? Why you need a toll-free number? Question yourself, right? And just replace it. That I'm there, but I will be there on the chat, I will be there on the voice, but that's my customer service. And believe me, some of the players have started implementing that, right? I mean, there are few close examples. I mean, Zomato just went live with RBL with some sort of cards coming out with credit card. Their customer support is pure bot. That's it.
So sorry, Rahul, to interrupt on this. Sorry, I don't want to break your thought process. So what are the top 2 challenges that you think? Yeah, bot is fine, bot strategy is fine, but execution also fine.
I think you should be very much clear on the tech stack. If your tech stack is equipped to handle that omni-channel experience that you want to give with these sort of stuff, because you have to take the data from your core system and your non-core system at the real time. That's the thing. If you don't have those big data layer, you want to hit every time your core system directly, then probably these solutions will not fly. So you have to be very careful that, okay, fine, I have those ESB layers ready with me, and I am running a microservice architecture, and hence, then the game is very easy. Don't think about consumer. Consumer wants what you're thinking. Consumer actually wants a touch, contactless affair with you, right? So that's how it is. So
great. Sorry, Rahul. So great stuff. I think I'm getting a very interesting perspective is tech stack right? Yeah, because there are multiple technologies, lots of technologies involved even within a bot, right? So underlying technologies need to be corrected, as you're saying, right? Kind of architecture needs to be put into place. So basically, these are the challenges generally we may face. I can, being in the technology side of the game, I can just simply tell you are so perfect in your observation. While taking that tech stack right, the people who will be using that tech stack, which is basically the outcome of the tech stack, is a bot. Now, my next question is to Gaurav on that. So often I have seen, or people told me also some of the times, that our customers are more digital savvy than the employees. So what's the skill set challenges that you are facing from the employees' point of view? How are you overcoming? So over to Gaurav, please.
Okay, Sudeep. So I think this is very, very important question. If you really ask me, in my view, digital transformation or digital change is not about technology. Rather, it is more about people. So that is, I think, the major paradox of digital transformation. We talked a lot about technology, but it's about people. Let's take things into perspective that today I hire a person in my team. He's a great guy. He's great with, let's say, Google search, but tomorrow maybe Google search may not be relevant. He need to learn AI, ML or something, or I keep on hiring people and keep losing the old people, right? I think the large organization has to take the this transformation journey, and this is the transformation journey of the employees, of the people, right? So having said that, I think this is very, very important. And if somebody is responsible for digital transformation, I think in my view, let's say if there's a CEO of the company, he should have direct control of recruitment and training to department. It should not be left to HR, in my personal view. It is so critical these days if you really want to do digital transformation. I can share 2 examples how I have started doing in my team, because and I have seen very good results out of it. So there are 2 programs, if I may talk about. One is 20 hours of learning. It's a very interesting TED talk. I think I will recommend everybody who's listening to us to see that talk. It says to learn any skill, it just takes 20 hours. That is 30 days. So what we have started doing in our team is we have started challenging people that which the skill you want to learn. It can be digital skill. It can be non-digital skill, but it is that I can learn. I'm saying a lot of people who are working in your teams, they have not learned a lot of stuff from very long period of time. And the results are very, very great. I have seen people who we labeled or said that, okay, he's just a designer. He learned a lot about SEO. He has delivered an award-winning SEO project and so on and so forth. These 2 are 2 completely different things. But you have to nurture, create that environment. I have seen people who have done in their life offline work throughout their life, 10 years of offline marketing, but they understand the business, they understand everything quite well. In this 20 hours of learning challenge, we said, why don't you go and learn something? And they came out and they said, okay, I want to learn maybe how to create a chatbot. And they created a chatbot, showed it to people. And so these kind of MVPs need to be created in the organization, which may not go to the actual world or to the actual customers, but your employees are very, very critical. Maybe that person tomorrow becomes the champion to have the best chatbot your company can ever have. But if you don't have those people who understand your company, maybe you just get a vendor who looks nice, maybe a big brand, a tech brand, and you'll say, okay, I'm doing a good digital transformation. I think that is going to fail. And the second program which I have started in my team is a failure budget, right? So I'd say you have to constantly fail. The culture of failure is very, very important. Uh, you have to test, learn, and fail. So what we did in our team, I said, okay, to try anything in digital, you don't need a lot of money. Maybe an idea can be tested by as low as 10,000 rupees. You all have 10,000 rupees. Go ahead. You have learned something. Now go and test. Create some MVPs. This will not shake the entire organization, but it will be very, very challenging for the people. But once they understand, a person who has taken this challenge of 20 hours of learning and maybe using a failure budget, he creates some prototypes, but then he's totally ready for any new challenge comes to him because digital is changing so fast. Right now, we talk about so many technologies. We ourselves may not be very clear which will impact our business and how much. So I think only way is to have a team who is ready to learn, who is very open, and I think it doesn't cost a lot to any organization. Rather, it is more cultural thing. If that can be built in any company or any team, I think a digital transformation will happen soon, and probably those people can choose which technology will impact their roles and probably then move forward with. Over to you.
Sudeep, you are on mute.
Sorry, thanks very much. Yeah, I just temporarily did mute. Sorry. Thank you, Gaurav, again. The perspective that you gave me is, gave the audience actually is, yes, there is a challenge. How do you overcome the challenge? The challenge is basically, it's possibly anywhere these challenges, not only digital, but even non-digital area. How do you pick up new skills? It takes 20 hours to 30 hours to pick up new skills. So probably the organizations need to look at building such kind of programs where, the small and kind of short burst program, which will be helping learning the new age skills, and that includes digital. While saying that, we talked about the skill set challenges, we talked about the technology challenges. Now organizations are doing their job to adopt technologies, to making people skilled. But one of the areas that I'd like to touch with MVS is that job description. Right? While the skills are changing, are your job description changing in sync with the skills needed? And how are you doing this organizational transformation? MVS, please.
Okay, let's look at it this way. There are two parts to your question. Okay, and let me begin with my own self. When I began my career, a large part of the early part of my career, let's say 10 years, was spent in communication, brand communication, largely skewed towards what to say and where to say it and how to say it. So that was the first 10 years. When I look at the next 10 years, it was around digital marketing, saying that how do I take it up close and personal to the consumer? How can I make it a one-on-one? How can I do a segment of one marketing at a mass scale? So that was a challenge. When I look at it now, and this is the third decade of my career, the whole thing has changed to how do I create better customer experiences. Now, in case of better customer experiences, digital marketing, communication are also a part of it, and they're incidental to it. So the role of the marketer itself has gone so much of an evolution. Now, when I look at hiring, 10 years, 30 years back, I'm saying at year zero, I would have looked at somebody who's very articulate, who's able to, communicate well, who's able to understand consumers better. In the second decade, I would have looked at somebody who understands digital as a medium. My worry was, does he understand display? Does he understand search engine marketing? Does he understand email marketing? Does he understand SEO, SEM? Does he understand website design? Making a website itself was a big thing. I remember our first client with whom we were working in, and this is in 1999, 2000. For 6 months, we didn't get paid for any work that we did. I won't blame the client. And after 6 months, the first job was to put up their India homepage, and putting up a homepage was a big deal, www.bank.com/India. And it was a huge celebration which happened. But now when I look at hiring or when I look at people, one is that my own role has changed. So therefore, as somebody who runs the team, I would expect different kind of skill sets. But I believe that he will not just be digital first, but he'll be digital inside in any case, as a consumer, as somebody who has a point of view on how the user experience has to be, how the user journey needs to go out and do. And clearly, I expect him to be driven by numbers, because marketing itself is now having more impetus since technology is coming onto our table as much as marketing communication used to. So therefore, for us, it is very critical to go back to the CFO and to the CEO eventually and say that, look, this is what we have done in marketing, and this is how it's giving good, dividends. Just to stay on the example of the bot that we are talking about, while we created it for going out and enhancing our customer support, and we'll come to it maybe perhaps later in the conversation. On its own, it is going on delivering transactions also, which means there is a whole set of consumers, and which is what you touched earlier, that customers are thinking faster than the marketeer. There are a whole set of consumers who have come on their own and have done transactions without even seeing a single person's face or heard a voice or written to anybody. So if you have colleagues in the team who understand how technology can be leveraged, it just enhances what we go out and do as an organization. And that's how the entire job description and quality of people in a team has changed.
Yeah. So I assume that, as you mentioned, the different areas of skill set requirements of the people and the hiring needs, etc. So I can clearly see the correlation between the job description within your organization structures, etc., which is evolving, and the description also is evolving, right? So
Yeah.
that's one of the levers to transfer. I have seen in my experience earlier also that while we talk about, we are doing digital transformation, we have digitally transformed ourselves, but when I go back to JDs, possibly not much of change, right? Not much of change. Whether I can't see that whether you're looking for a digitally native or somebody who is digitally acquiring some traits from the market by learning by new skilling. Thank you very much, MVS. That's
But may I add just one point, Deep? I'm saying this, that there is no bridge between the digital native and the digital learner. It has become a common landscape now. So I think, and I always keep espousing this, that we should not be talking of digital marketing or digital and legacy companies. I never think that we have belabored so much about legacy companies. So that divide is completely, getting eliminated. Either you are in it or you're without it. That's it. So that's the reason for rejection.
Yeah, thanks very much, MVS. Nice perspective. So let me go to the next one, which is next question is more on the. I put it as a regulation, but Prashant, you can take your perspective, which is, see, if you look at a lot of this AI is coming in today, right? As you talked about, it's a bundle of technology. I also talked about bundle of technology. Lots of AI is being embedded within the products. So not only automotive, any other product. But there is one more angle to it: privacy, regulation. What's the challenge, or what are the challenges that you are facing, and how are you managing, or how do you prescribe others to manage?
Sure. See, if you think about automobile industry, you may see that AI, ML, and all these kind of technologies what we speak about, we may be the last one to go for it. It's nothing to do with our capability or our belief in the technology. It is to do with the industry itself. If you look into automobile as an industry across the globe, this is predominantly controlled by many government regulation, right? So be it in terms of emission or fuel consumption, or even up to the extent of how the software should be updated in the cars, the traceability should be enabled. There are so many things, right? We cannot just implement the new age technology that easily. And the second thing is, if you look different countries, the primarily law governed by a person driving the car, a person taking the accountability of anything happens with that car. So on that context, if you implement AI or ML or autonomous cars, what we are talking about, then the insurance and laws and all this needs to be changed. It is not only the technology implementation. It's all about how we are traditionally operating from maybe last 100 plus years. When the Ford thought the best way to go for is not the best horse, the fastest horses, maybe the different way of traveling medium, right? So travel medium. From there, if you look into it, over the years it has evolved, and now suddenly this new technology is coming. We definitely feel. Just think about it. You just sleep in your car in Bangalore, and tomorrow morning when you open your eyes, you're in Mangalore. It's such a nice thing, right? It can happen. It is not that it cannot happen, but these are the regulations which governs. And also the data regulation. You briefly touched about security, data privacy, which is very, very stringent in this domain. So we are dealing with people. So we can use data, and if we collect data from connected cars, we can use it for many different purposes. A lot of things we can do, but are we allowed to use it? So that's a question. So companies like us, Volvo Cars or even Mahindra or any of these companies, we have big units just looking at interpreting this law and helping governments to interpret this law, or constantly debating with governments to update this law. So I think some of these things needs to be taken care before we start getting into some of this AI, ML. Of course, we're using it now for the customer experience, but to the extent what it can be used, there is a scope to use it further.
Thanks very much. From the regulatory perspectives, of course, one of the anecdotal examples I can take, in one of the webinars I was there with the government, a lot of government officials, and one of the senior personnel actually told me that, Sudeep, we always play, being in the government, we always play a catch-up game. It's a private companies actually who pushes the barrier, and then we understand what the behaviors are, and then we crawl up to that, crawl up literally, and then we put some regulations to control that. Typically, the technology companies actually are pushing the barrier across the board. So while saying that, it's just the opposite side of it, Jinesh, for you, which is how the government regulations are enabling digitalization, right? How do you think that they're enabling? Number one, you may take the automotive industry, or I would say you may take a core industry view because you come from Mahindra's background. So over to you, Jinesh.
So
you are mute. Yeah, sorry. Ken.
Let me take a step back because we are talking about regulations. So see, the role of technology has changed, right? From enabler of businesses to driver of many businesses now. So technology itself has become an industry. So regulations are likely because technology, while supporting other industries, it has an industry itself. So regulations will come in place. Now, then there is a consumer side challenge, which is around security, digital literacy challenge. Consumer may not really understand, and it may lead to a lot of vulnerabilities, both on the organization side and the consumer side. So organization has a challenge to build the trust and the transparency. If you're using consumer data, how do you really build the trust? And how do you create that level of transparency where each and everything is clear, how specific data points are going to use? So in my view, regulations will come in, and we should really look at it from the perspective of whether they're accelerating or impeding. We should look at it from the perspective of making it more of an ethical and responsible use of technology, right? Regulations are here to drive the responsiveness in the organization. Second aspect, how should regulation apply? What should be the applications, right? So regulation should not really govern the technology itself. It should govern the use cases, the specific applications. To give you a traditional example, we all know that speeding car can cause accidents. So the regulations are that you put speed limit signs on roads. The regulations is not to control the speeds of the car, right? You don't build it into the vehicle itself. So that's how regulations are likely to evolve. At the moment, we are in an era where there is a pacing problem. Technology is changing much faster. Regulations are not able to keep pace with it. So as private players, we have to closely work with government stakeholders, consistently educate them, consistently understand what will evolve, what will happen 2 years, 3 years down the line. At the same time, we bring consumer up to the speed that all three stakeholders, this is how together we are going to evolve when it comes to technology and our products.
Thanks very much, Jinesh. Sorry. So what we got from this section is, from this challenges part. So there are challenges from the technology side we'll have to overcome. There are challenges from the skill side, from the employees to build it, to serve the customers, right? So there is a challenge we can well kind of overcome that through different kind of interventions. And MBS also talked about different eras, and how the companies are also looking at possibly by changing themselves in terms of HR practices and the policies and the JDs, etc. Then the other two segments, which are another very interesting, which is basically regulation, also can be a driver enabler to regulation, can do a catch-up game as well. But overall, we are seeing that there are different kinds of challenges. A challenge for the customer side as well, from the industry side as well. So this section takes you to the last section. We do have only 5 minutes left, right? So we'll go by just 1 minute each of you on we'll take a peep into the future. Just a sneak peek into the future in your mind. So I'll start with MVS. MVS, we looked into all these technology areas, AI, XR, GS, IoT, all these things. Where do you stop? Any new opportunities that you think coming up?
Actually, Sudeep, technology is unstoppable. You know, the exciting part about technology is that it stimulates innovation, and we all like to innovate. Marketers are expected to be innovative. They not only need to think out of the box, but now they need to live out of the box so that they're able to understand both the ecosystems. The other aspect is that anything which is innovative, for it to deserve respect, it needs to scale. And if it doesn't happen, then nobody likes to sort of, you know, put their equity behind it. And this happens over a period of time. So one can take all of them on board, all the 4 elements that you mentioned, and start working on it, or you know, pick up one and then you go out and explore, you test and you scale, and then pick the other. So at Tata Mutual Fund, when I look at it, we are at this stage in our journey going deeper and deeper into AI, and that's turning out to be an extremely exciting journey for us. You know, particularly in the context of the bots that I was mentioning, and I'm very happy to share with you and the audience who's listening to us that over the last 8 months we have been able to manage about 550,000 customer queries using the state-of-the-art conversational bot that we have gone and built. And the way you need to look at it is that 550,000 into 5 minutes, because an average time for a call at a call center would have been 5 minutes of talking. I'm not talking of still baiting, you know. Those many number of minutes is what you have saved. And that you added across, you know, an 8-hour shift, working, you know, number of people and all of that. So that's the excess capacity that's got built. So you need to go deeper and deeper before you pick up one more fad, because if it is not scaling, then it is not going to be worth. So that's how you look at your opportunities. And also the other part is something which is relevant to you may not be relevant to somebody else. So somebody may go the XR route, or somebody may go the IoT route, particularly in terms of the consumer durables and the automobile pieces. So each will have their own mana for, you know, growth, scale, and success.
Yeah, thanks so much, MVS. Nice perspective once again, that technology is unstoppable. It's us who can actually use it by picking and choosing the right fit for our own strategy, business strategy. Next question, Gaurav, very, very quick will have to be, which is a very pointed question to you, which is on blockchain. Blockchain are the coins, Xcoin, Bitcoin, or whatever the coins. Do you think it's going to change the financial services industry in the next 5 years?
Yes, so my answer is yes. I think it is going to have its impact, but definitely, as MVS also talked about it, each industry and how these are going to impact each industry, that I think we all have to wait and watch and see. As a business, we definitely need to understand all these technology, how they are changing, and definitely invest our time and energy into it. So that could be a very quick answer to the question you had.
Okay, you being diplomatic. When I see the government is not really willing to listen to you, and at the same time, Elon Musk is buying $1 billion worth of Bitcoins. Okay, so fantastic. Thank you very much. Somebody told me that 10 years, Tesla did more profit by Bitcoin not by selling the Teslas. Okay, that's another day once again. Rahul, product innovation, value-added services combined with the physical product. Where do you think it's heading in terms of digital?
Yeah, so product innovations are also backed up by AI, IoT. So I just take quick example of 2 domains that I have experienced. So in healthcare, for example, we were pushing our product innovation with the combination of IoT and AI-based stuff. Okay, so for example, if you visit Max Healthcare, the whole radiology, the X-rays are scanned by AI-based technology. Okay, there is no radiologist who is sitting. There is a maker-checker queue, and then the checker is the human. So the maker is the AI, totally replaced, right? So you get your X-ray done, your CT done, it's actually scanned and anomalies raised and report typed by AI. IoT, Max at home services, everything is combination of that particular thing. The whole ecosystem of bringing care at home was done in a combination of IoT and AI-based services, which was come out as a Max at home services. When you talk about this space, fintech, yes, of course, the product innovation and all those things are heavily backed up by AI today. So even your underwriting, your fraud detection, your digital marketing stuff, everything right now in this space is heavily backed up by AI, and we are using it to the nth level, and we are getting fruitful result. So your product innovation is also coming out in a combination of these things. And the last mantra is very simple: give the convenience to the customer. I mean, that's a meaningful product if you're launching, if you're giving that ease and the scalability and the adoption there.
Thanks very much, Rahul. We have actually overshot our time, so I'll take just one more minute, 30 seconds each from Prashant and Jinesh. Start with Prashant. Prashant, future automotive.
Short term connected cars, online sales, using data for better customer experience, and using data and automation for better manufacturing. Medium term, ownership versus subscription model. I don't think so. The future generation is interested in owning the one car for life. They're looking at changing the cars very often. Our car sharing will improve, and change the car based on the need. Like for daily you need small car, and vacation you need bigger car. All these business models will evaluate. And long term, autonomous cars.
Thank you very much. That's a quick one, but very meaningful one. If you come up with something like that in India, let me know. I'll take a Volvo. Okay, next one, the last one, Jinesh, to you. We'll have hard stop at 30 seconds possibly, which is Prashant talked about from the company's perspective. Talk something about what customers are expecting from the companies.
Sure. So if I talk about auto industry, consumers and customers would expect us to release products like a software company and operationally agile like a retail company. Like software, Prashant is talking about connected, autonomous, shared mobility, and electrification. CASE is the typical acronym that we use. Tech will converge, and operationally agile, instant on demand. Consumers don't have patience. I've ordered a car today morning. Are you sending it today evening, or are you sending it tomorrow? Oh, by the way, I ordered a red color Thar, but I want to change it to blue. Can you make this change pretty quick? So entire experience from hyper local to hyper personalized, it will become individualized in future as we move forward. And of course, the Prashant talked about the ownership model. Today, I want to own a red color, 2 months down the line, blue color, different model, etc. So we are in for a very interesting time using digital.
Thank you very much, Jinesh. Just to add to you, I'm working with one of the German companies. They are talking about changing the textile colors. So tomorrow, sari color or your curtain colors will be changing not 2 days or 2 months, it's possibly an hour. Thank you very much. Over to Bhavna. Before I go, give it to Bhavna back, thank you very much to all of you panelists. It was a very enlightening personally, and I'm sure the audience also have enjoyed the conversation, and the perspectives that you brought in from different industries, highly valuable. Thank you very much, audience. Over to Bhavna, please.
Thank you, Sudeep.
Thank you so much, Sudeep. And thank you to all our panelists, our eminent panelists. Firstly, what a wonderful moderation. Mr. Mazumdar, you got the slice of knowledge from everyone in the concise time we had allocated. And they always say that knowledge is the real treasure. So thank you once again for joining us. And with this, I'd now like to move on to the next panel in the next few minutes. But meanwhile, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Thank you.